This is Southern Cross News with Joe Palmer.
Good evening everyone and welcome to Southern Cross News. Some of the state's most vulnerable children are said to be at risk tonight of being left behind if 150 foster and kinship carer positions are not filled over the next 3 years. The Interim Children's Commissioner echoing the call, saying these children need compassion and support.
Over the past 15 years, Katie Wells and her husband have fostered over 60 children, as well as having 6 of their own.
We've had little breaks in between that time, but we always seem to come back to it. It is really rewarding.
She says it's a role requiring patience and hard work, as children in care often come from traumatic backgrounds, urging more Tasmanians to care for our state's most vulnerable amid declining foster and kinship carer numbers across the state.
We are desperate for more really highly motivated, really empathetic, people who are ready to undertake that fast train journey.
While the government has programs in place to address social issues within the community, there's increasing numbers of children entering the out-of-home care system.
So to have the skilled and dedicated people who do this important work on hand means that those children are going to be receiving better support and the care that they really need.
At a certain point of time in the next couple of years, there's going to be a massive gap in the fact that we're not going to have enough carers to look after our children and youth in the state.
To become a foster or kinship carer, people need to register and undergo training.
People can open up their homes that are, benevolent and altruistic. It can actually change the rite of passage for a child or young person in Tasmania. FCAT
says there's myriad support services available, including this handbook released today. It provides crucial information to those already registered or those considering taking on a child.
Helps to show them that this is a professional thing to do. There is training and support in place.
We certainly have a big need for respite carers in the state as well, and I think this is a good introduction if they're seriously thinking about being a foster carer.
Louise Hedger, Southern Cross News.
1 in every 6 Tasmanian young people has experienced homelessness, according to a new Mission Australia report. Support organisations are blaming the lack of affordable social housing, while the Housing Minister says the government's tackling the issue head-on.
At 18 years old, Grace Morgan has had a tough time.
I started couch surfing because of family violence, and it made it hard for me to stay at home.
She stayed on friends' couches for 3 months, but then was offered stable and supported accommodation at Trinity Hill.
And through that I've been able to focus on my education and my career and the things I want in life.
Sadly, her story's common. Over 21,000 young people aged between 15 and 19 years old were surveyed for Mission Australia's latest report. 1 in 6, or 17%, had experienced homelessness.
Whether that's primary, including sleeping rough, or tertiary homelessness such as couch surfing or living in transitional accommodation.
Hobart's housing crisis said to be a major contributor, with Tasmanian numbers among the worst in Australia.
The risks are that something isn't done, then into the future we're potentially risking young people who carry the mental and physical scars of homelessness.
The Housing Minister says actions being taken, including more supported accommodation facilities and extra funding for the strategy for youth at risk.
And we're about to commence a 6-month long consultation process on our second Affordable Housing Action Plan.
What we really need to focus on is thinking about what we can do to prevent children from ending up in this system, and that means as best possible ensuring that families have access to the supports that they need.
Grace says while she was able to access youth services, more awareness needs to be raised.
I don't think there's enough participation through education to let people know that these services are there and they're available and they can help.
Louise Hedger, Southern Cross News.
A second man has been charged over an armed robbery at the Mowbray Hotel in May. A 25-year-old Georgetown man will appear in court on August 13 to face aggravated armed robbery charges. An alleged accomplice appeared in the Launceston Magistrates Court last week. The state government has today announced a plan to upgrade Hobart's Elwick Racecourse in a bid to improve the facilities. The venue will see a single-run track added to the 2,000-metre course, which Tas Racing says is greatly needed.
This historic Elwick Racecourse has been the home of racing since the 19th century. Today, plans for a multi-million-dollar upgrade were revealed.
What we are going to see is a new single 28-metre track that has been developed after significant consultation with Tas Racing.
It's been nursed very well by Tas Racing staff for a number of years. We needed to be in a position where we could afford the upgrade.
A much-loved spot for the annual Hobart Cup. This new track aims to replace some of the older tracks, keeping the venue and the industry thriving.
We're reinvesting in breeding and we want to see racing across Tasmania and here at Elwick have a really bright future.
The Hobart-based track has for some time been in need of upgrading, so we've got the money, the job can be done and the job will be done.
Tas Racing has significantly consulted across the industry on what is best here at this facility, and we're going to see tenders open for this new 28-metre track, which is very exciting.
The turf is expected to be laid in the coming weeks, with construction to begin after the Hobart Cup in March. Ruby COMMANE, Southern Cross News.
Another report has found Hobart has the fastest growing house prices out of the nation's capitals. The CoreLogic report released today found the home values have grown 1.1% over the past quarter and 11.5% over the past year. However, prices are showing signs of slowing down with no change last month.
It does look like there's a bit of a slowing in that Hobart market, and I think when you look at the cost of housing in Hobart now, it makes sense. I mean, it's very close to the cost of housing in Adelaide, not far off the cost of housing in Perth.
The report also found values have slipped backwards in both Melbourne and Sydney. One lane of the Brooker Highway was closed for around an hour this afternoon as two cars involved in a head-on crash were removed from the road. The crash occurred just before 4 o'clock at the Brisbane Street intersection outside Officeworks. Thankfully, no one was injured. A rise in car burglaries in the Hobart region has sparked a warning from Tasmania Police to be vigilant when securing vehicles. In the past month, 86 cars were reportedly broken into. 23 of those were left unlocked. Offenders stealing property such as phones, iPads, wallets and bags left inside the cars.
So the things that you leave sitting in your dash or sitting on the passenger seat or sitting in the footwell, the things that can be seen, that's what's being stolen. But it would certainly help if the public would actually lock their car. Make it a little bit harder for them to get in there.
Police have arrested 4 people in the past week over car burglary-related offences. After years of falling into disrepair, work is at last underway to breathe new life into Launceston's Macquarie House. The $4 million redevelopment will see the site prepare to house digital industries of the future.
Launceston's Macquarie House has had many faces, from its heyday in the 19th century storing grain, through to the 1970s and 1980s as a cafe and a place for storage.
It hasn't been used for quite some time and it's been a storage place for quite some time, so really it's sat idle and it's been something that's been used mainly for storage.
Now work is finally underway to give it a new lease on life. But fixing up the 189-year-old structure is a tricky job.
It's very challenging. You've got the basic fabric of the old building that we've got to work within, which is obviously heritage listed.
This is the final vision for the 4-storey sandstone building, a $4 million redevelopment that will house startups in a technology and innovation hub.
And we're going to see, I believe, some great industries come out of that into the future. So it's a great new stage and it's right next to the redeveloped Civic Square, which is very important as well.
It's expected to be open next year. Sean McComish, Southern Cross News.
Tasmania's newest distillery is helping the Royal Flying Doctor Service honour its most famous patron. A special bottle of whiskey from Hangar 17 will be presented to Prince Charles on his 70th birthday in recognition of the funds raised for the service in the UK.
Less than a fortnight after opening its doors, Hangar 17 is making a philanthropic pledge. The distillery is donating its first barrel of whiskey to its next door neighbour, the Royal Flying Doctor Service, to help the organisation raise funds.
Yeah, it's great for us with our aviation theme, I think, to work with them.
It's a fitting destination for the first barrel, which has been made inside of an old Ansett hangar at Launceston Airport. Its contents will raise tens of thousands of dollars for the Flying Doctor, but one special bottle will be set aside for long-term patron Prince Charles, who heavily supports the Flying Doctor's charitable arm in the UK.
This year's also his 70th birthday and our 90th birthday, so the decision has been that we'll donate one of the bottles out of the first barrel as a gift for his birthday.
The Royal Whisky will be bottled next week, while Hangar 17 is reporting strong early interest in its product, especially from those attracted to aviation.
The thing that surprised us really is the amount of Ansett people who've seen the roller door up and just dropped in. They're actually guys who used to work here, and they're just pleased to see the building being used again.
The distillery is also donating a barrel of whiskey to the RSPCA. Tom Johnson, Southern Cross News.
A survey has revealed 1 in 10 pet dogs are not being walked at all, sparking a fundraising campaign targeting the health of our pups. This month, Guide Dogs Tasmania is encouraging 30 minutes a day for 30 days, getting both dogs and owners moving.
Raising much needed funds, one paw at a time. These poochers stretching all 4 legs as part of a new campaign aiming to get more paws pounding the pavement.
Pawgust is a new national campaign by Guide Dogs Australia, which is challenging Australians to get out and walk 30 minutes for 30 days during August.
The organisation says 1 in 10 dogs are left inside all day, with many owners unable to find the time or put off by cold weather.
And through opening up a donation page, getting people to donate to you for walking 30 minutes a day is actually going to raise us money so that we can have more pups here in Tasmania.
Harry here has his little pawdometer on. So when you sign up, you get a free pawdometer to put on your pet dog, which will measure the steps that they take.
The proceeds of the drive will go towards raising more guide dogs in the state.
Roughly 2 kilometres, so not too much, but just a good average walking amount for the dogs and for you to stay healthy.
And they say getting out and about doesn't just benefit man's best friend.
And it's important that all dogs get that chance to just be a dog. So our guide dog puppies and our working guide dogs are out in those dog parks with the harnesses off, running around, socialising and having fun. And that's what it's all about, being a dog.
Nearly 160 Tasmanians have signed up for the campaign, with over $6,000 raised so far. Registration is still open for those interested in taking part. Ruby COMMANE, Southern Cross News.
Now let's take a look at the day's business and finance news with thanks to Tasplan, your local super fund. The Australian share market has closed slightly lower as falls in banking and energy stocks offset gains in miners BHP and Rio Tinto, industrials and healthcare companies. The ASX 200 index has dropped by 4.5 points. A short time ago, the Australian dollar was trading at 74.29 US cents and 108.79 New Zealand cents.
Some of the world's best surfers, including Mick Fanning, are set to converge on Tasmania for what will be the biggest surfing event the state has ever seen. The Red Bull Shipstone Bluff contest will also feature 10 locals who will be keen to show how it's done on the infamous big wave.
A one-of-a-kind event, certainly not for the faint-hearted.
It spits! Oh, cannonball out of that one. Oh, this is so thick. Oh.
After shocking the surfing world back in 2016, the Red Bull Cape Fear contest is back. And this time it's Tasmania's turn to host at the notorious break known as Shipstone Bluff.
Over the years, we've had some really good swells coming up in the next few months. So, yeah, fingers crossed that we can get one for the history books.
An invitation-only event, 20 of the planet's best big wave surfers, including 3-time world champ Mick Fanning, will be on standby from August till December, waiting for what could prove a once-in-a-lifetime swell to hit the state's south coast.
Just aligned perfectly with Mick Fanning's retirement, so he's available. And I've been down there with him surfing it before, and he's actually probably my dark horse pick out of all the non-local surfers.
HOLLMER-CROSS is one of 10 locals set to compete, having surfed the wave for more than a decade.
Half of the guys, the international guys, haven't actually surfed down here, so you know, it's going to be a good advantage to the local guys.
They know how the wave breaks, and also just being able to read which waves to take off on. That's the main part, because I surf it out there with them all the time, and they're always the guys on the best waves.
Set to be streamed on screens around the globe, all that's left to do now is wait for the swell.
It's one of the most majestical but also brutal waves on the planet. It just makes for absolutely perfect viewing.
I think it's got the potential to be one of the best competitions ever.
And the Derwent Entertainment Centre may be forced to open its curtains for the first time in years, with tickets for the Hobart Chargers prelim final in hot demand, while Tasmania's case for its own NBL side continues to gather momentum.
As the former Premier, Bartlett is used to bigging things up, but the buzz surrounding the Chargers' upcoming final speaks for itself.
Within 3 hours, we'd sold 1,000 tickets. This is going to be the biggest game of basketball in Tasmania since the Devils' days.
A crowd of up to 3,000 is now expected after the side earned the right to host the prelim thanks to a thrilling 2-point win over Kilsyth. And the president is hoping the club can clinch what's eluded them in recent years, a shot at playing for the Siebel Championship.
It would be just reward for Anthony Stewart and for this team that we've put together that are a great Chargers team to go on and win this grand final.
And a strong showing of support at the August 10 match could prove a big step towards the state having its own NBL side, with more than 500 memberships already sold for the Southern Huskies franchise after going on sale today.
Well over 1,000 people were waiting ready to click buy, is what I'm told. That crashed the server and it's been a bit slow getting back up.
14 degrees today for Hobart and Burnie. Launceston and Devonport had the state's top with 15 degrees there after a chilly start. St Helens also reached 15, which was the state's top. 14 on King Island, 13 for Flinders. KRISTY, Lowehead, Fingal, Campania and Ouse all 13, with 12 for Strawn and Grove. Sheffield and Medina both the top of 11. Looking onto the charts, low cloud streaming there over the west of the state today. Clear skies in the northeast. A narrow frontal band further out, visible over southwest of WA. The remainder of the continent is relatively cloud-free. Tomorrow, a ridge lies east of Tasmania while a cloud and cold front moves across the mainland. Northeast to northwesterly winds 5 to 15 knots, 20 knots about the west, expected to increase later to 30 knots about the west and also the southeast, with seas between 2 and 3 metres. There's a strong wind warning for lower eastern, southern and western coastal waters, a small craft wind alert for the Central Lakes, and it's also expected to be a frosty start with some ice on susceptible roads in the morning. A few clouds about in the south, 12 tomorrow for Hobart, 11 at Cygnet, 10 degrees for New Norfolk, 12 the top for Launceston, 13 in Devonport, 10 degrees at Campbelltown. A light shower or two for Burnie, 12 degrees, 14 at Strawn, Smithton 13, with 13 also at St Helens, Swansea 14 with a frosty start, and 12 the top for Fingal. Showers about the northwest, gradually sweeping across the state on Friday. Showers contracting to the north and the west early on Saturday. Sunny there with a top of 16 in Hobart, with a rainy day expected across the state on Sunday. Around the major centres, 16 and stormy for Perth tomorrow, 22 the top for Adelaide, frost and 15 in Canberra, sunny in Sydney 20 degrees, 17 for Melbourne with 23 for Brisbane. And it's a clear night around the state tonight. Hobart 7 degrees, 8 degrees for Launceston and Devonport. Back to you, Joe.
All right, thanks so much for that, Sam. That's all from us. Have a great evening. Good night.